tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim, for the Mashiach's sake, have forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim as dear children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us and have given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness, all covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becometh saints. Neither filthiness nor foolish talking nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Amen. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame, and am set down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches. Amen. And now our elder, Yaakov ben Israel, is going to come up behind the altar and teach today's class.
Welcome once again to the Holy Convention of the Culture Center of the New Covenant Congregation of Israel. Yahweh Elohim has enjoined unto us here in this city of Atlanta. Truly, Yahweh has been merciful to us as he always has been to the children of Israel. The problem has been Israel took Yahweh's love for granted. And this is something that you can't do when you're dealing with the God of Israel, is take his love for granted. But see, that's Judah. See, that's the way the house of Judah does things. So as we go through this legacy that we're dealing with, let us consider these things, because the things that was written aforetime was written for our learning and our comfort. Our learning that we learn not the ways of our fathers, and our comforts that we should be saved. So let us consider these things, Israel, because when we look upon the earth and see the thing that's going down, we can kid ourselves if we want to, but we know that Yahweh's moving. Yahweh's doing his thing. And he's doing it right before our eyes so that we can see that it is him that's doing these things, that he's doing exactly what he told the fathers, the prophets, that he was going to be about. So when we read these things, let's not consider these things to just be words written down into a book. These things are written down that we should pattern our life after these things because of who we are. We're not just any nation of people. We are Yahweh's chosen people. This is why he brought us over in here in this captivity, so that he can carry out his word to our fathers, and that he can magnify his holy name when we receive our salvation. So, we can take this thing ho-hum or take it light in the way we want to, because you know how Jake is. Jake going to do what Jake want to do. But you can believe one thing, Yahweh is still going to do just what he said he was going to do, regardless of how we feel about it. We can see these things coming up on us. We see nations rising up against nations. We're seeing earthquakes and floods and pestilences in diverse places. As a matter of fact, in Africa, in Africa alone, within the next year, they expect 14 million people to die from starvation. 14 million people to die from starvation. And we here in America, I know that y'all been watching this Black America, right? The statistics about our people is appalling. And guess what? These are things that's being shown around the world. They're not just being shown in your neighborhood. So you know how the nations feel about us that come over here to America. They think that we are nothing but a bunch, especially since that hip-hop thing came out. I mean, well, hip-hop did have a message in the music, but what I'm referring to is that rap stuff. That's where a lot of your crime is. Hip hop has some crime in it, but not the way that these rappers have it. It's all about my bling, my this, my that, my this. But see, it's all about that money. People would do anything for money. And the thing of it is this: you never get enough money. You see, if you get $5 million, before the year's out, you're going to need 7. Before the next 6 months, you're going to need 12, because the human appetite is insatiable, and it's all about me. Even in the program that we've been watching, I don't know whether y'all know it or not, but when the civil rights movement came through, the civil rights movement wasn't for everybody. The civil rights movement was for the elite among our people. They go in these schools, they tap certain brothers and sisters, right? They look at their school record and so forth, say, okay, we're going to take this one here, and we're going to make something out of him. Then they become your politicians, your big businessmen, and so forth and so on. But the other ones, that all they need is a little push, they're casting them to the side, so they're even putting classes. Our own people are setting classes between us, you see. Only the strong shall survive. Only the strong that's totally Americanized will survive. And if you become totally Americanized, ain't no doubt about it, the Messiah going to have you ripped off. Ain't no doubt about it. It's going to show you that you've learned the ways of strangers. And like Yahweh said, I rose up early sending my holy men to you. But look what you did to them. You hung some of them, you sawed some asunder, and you wouldn't listen to me. You're stiff-necked people and so forth. So I'm going to cast you away beyond Babylon, didn't he? Well, if we see that these things has happened to us, our fathers, what you think going to happen to us? Do you think we any better than they? It was a lot of our fathers, especially in the New Testament, that was on the blood of Yahshua too. And what it showed was that they didn't do anything but have a quick washing. So let us consider these things, Israel, because our time is at hand and we are to pray. Once our people came out of the land under Joshua, we got into the land under Joshua, once we know what happened. Joshua set up, after that generation died, they set up 430 years of judges, which lasted unto King Saul. And the reason why we had a king was because we had looked around, our fathers had looked around and seen what the other nations was doing, right? And you know, we want to be like everybody else, you see. So when Samuel went and inquired of Yahweh concerning these things, after they boxed him up and threatened to kill him, he went and inquired of Yahweh, and then Yahweh said, listen to the people. Give them just what they want, because it's not you that they're rejecting. It's me that they're rejecting. So Yahweh gave him, the first king was a Benjamite, biggest brother in the land, big handsome brother, right? But that brother would not do anything Yahweh said, and in his exploits, he had a brother out there. In his exploits, he had a brother out there that was that Yahweh had given him, Joab. That was I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself now. He had a brother out there, David, that was bringing Israel under his control, under Saul's control. But Saul saw David as his enemy. Why? Because he knew that David was the man that Yahweh had chosen to be next king in Israel. And he even tried to kill his own son, because his own son was a partner to David. So Yahweh killed Saul off, and set up David as his king. And this is the first time that all of the Fertile Crescent was brought under Israelite control. But then once David got old, and he appointed his son Shlomo as king, then the prophets had to come back and forth to this brother and back and forth to this brother. First it was Samuel. Then it was they went to David and Saul, and then it was Nathan that was there. And Yahweh appeared to Shlomo twice. But Shlomo, being rich, see, you have to watch riches. Shlomo, in Shlomo's kingdom, the people were so rich that the scripture tell you they heaped up gold as the dust of the streets. Silver wasn't counted for nothing. They had super inflation, right? So what it did was, all of that wealth and everything, money is the root of all evil. Not some of it, all of it. And what Shlomo did was he taxed the people so heavily that when he got old, he started building temples for them strange women he had married. See, he couldn't go among his people. He was just like what that brother named Samson. Samson, even at the behest of his own people, at the pleading of his own people, Samson didn't want an Israelite woman. Samson wanted him somebody else. You see, so we could, and Shlomo did the same thing, man. Shlomo had 300 wives and 500 concubines, right? But how many children did he have? One. You see, Yahweh didn't bless that brother with a whole lot of seeds simply because he knew what Solomon was going to do. And after he had appeared to this brother twice, this brother still ended up defying the God of Israel to his face. And they, like he told him, they told David, say, I'm not going to take the kingdom from him, but I'm going to take it from his son. And that's just what he did. Now, when we get in here and get to reading about the prophets of Israel, we understand that the prophets were sent mainly to warn Israel of learning and practicing the ways of the children of men, but to adhere to the covenants of the wedding vows that they had made with Elohim, the reason and way the Messiah Yeshua would redeem Israel back to Elohim, and the year we would begin, that Yeshua rather would begin to testify and seal the new covenant with our fathers in his blood. The fathers also told us about how our 12 tribes would be destroyed, who would destroy and scatter our fathers among the sons of men, and how Satan would use the Holy Bible and his power and riches in causing the nations to worship and serve him. Seeing how all the covenants are intertwined, the fathers spoke of the regathering of the house of Judah at the fall of America, this Protestant whorish daughter of Europe, and of the Catholic Church. He told them about the rise of the EU, of the revived Holy Roman Empire, that would fight against the Mashiach at his return, which began in Revelation 13, even to the regathering of our 12 tribes back to our land, the Fertile Crescent, and the events of the first resurrection. So we covered up to them people coming in the land. So what I'd like to do today is, my sermon today is on the diaspora, the scattering, the dispersion, whichever one you want to use. But the title is the diaspora. And I'd like to start our sermon today in Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 1 through verse 40. And as we read these things, consider why you're here. Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 1 through verse 40. Let's pick up where we left off at last week.
Now therefore hearken, O Israel, unto the statutes and unto the judgments which I teach you, for to do them, that you may live and go in and possess the land which Yahweh Elohim of your fathers giveth you. Mm-hmm. You shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall you diminish aught from it, that you may keep the commandments of Yahweh your Elohim, which I command you. Your eyes have seen what Yahweh did because of Baal Peor. For all the men that followed Baal Peor, Yahweh, thy Elohim, have destroyed them from among you. But you that did cleave unto Yahweh, your Elohim, are alive, every one of you, this day. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as Yahweh, my Elohim, commanded me, that you should do so in the land whither you go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great who has Elohim so near unto them as Yahweh our Elohim is in all things that we call upon him for? And what nation is there so great that have statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law which I set before you this day? Only take heed to thyself and keep thy soul diligently, lest thou forget the things which thine eyes have seen, and lest they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life. But teach them thy sons and thy sons' sons, especially the day that thou stoodest before Yahweh thy Elohim in Horeb, when Elohim said unto me, gather me the people together, and I will make them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days that they shall live upon the earth, and that they may teach their children. And you came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire unto the midst of heaven, with darkness, clouds, and thick darkness. And Elohim spake unto you out of the midst of the fire. You heard the voice of the words, but saw no similitude. Only you heard a voice. And he declared unto you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform, even 10 commandments, and he wrote them upon 2 tables of stone. Mm-hmm. And Elohim commanded me at that time to teach you statutes and judgments, that you might do them in the land whither you go over to possess it.
Right. He gave all the people heard the 10 commandments, but he commanded Moshe to teach them statutes and judgments that explain the 10 commandments to them. Go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 15. Take you therefore good heed unto yourselves, for you saw no manner of similitude on the day that Elohim spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire, lest you corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female.
Right, or cars, or houses, or bank accounts, or whatever. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 17. The likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth, and least thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the host of heaven, should be driven to worship them and serve them, which Yahweh your Elohim have divided unto all nations under the whole heaven. But Yahweh have taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt, to be unto him a people of inheritance, as you are this day.
Praise Yah.
Furthermore, Yahweh was angry with me for your sakes, and sware that I should not go over Jordan, and that I should not go in unto that good land which Yahweh thy Elohim giveth thee for an inheritance. But I must die in this land, I must not go over Jordan. But you shall go over and possess that good land.
Right, well, Moses had suffered with the children of Israel for 40 years. Moses was 120 years old. You know what I mean? So I could see why Yahweh took him on out of the way, so that them young folk that went in that land understand that the youngest person that went into the land, except Caleb and Joshua, was 19 years old and downward. Yahweh have to kill off them old folks. You know why? Old folks are set in their ways, and they ain't going to change. Ain't no doubt about it. They ain't going to change. They're going to fake it changing, but they're going to go so far and say, I'm through with that. I got to do what I want to do. I got to get my glory. Right. Go ahead and read, brother.
Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 23. Take heed unto yourselves, lest you forget the covenant of Yahweh your Elohim, which he made with you, and make you a graven image of the likeness of anything which Yahweh thy Elohim hath forbidden thee. For Yahweh thy Elohim is a consuming fire, even a jealous Elohim. When thou shalt beget children and children's children, and you shall have remained long in the land, and shall corrupt yourselves, and make a graven image of the likeness of anything, and shall do evil in the sight of Yahweh thy Elohim, to provoke him to anger, I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day, that you shall soon utterly perish from off the land whereunto you go over Jordan to possess it. You shall not prolong your days upon it, but shall utterly be destroyed.
What he does today is he take that Holy Spirit from us, and Lucifer deceive us to believe that we still have it. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 27. And Yahweh shall scatter you among the nations, and you shall be left few in number among the heathen, whither Yahweh shall lead you. And there you shall serve gods, the works of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. But if from thence thou shalt seek Yahweh thy Elohim, thou shalt find him, if thou seek him with all thy heart and with all thy soul.
Stipulation. If you seek him with all your heart and with all your soul. In other words, you can't have part of your heart in the world and part of your heart in the church. That ain't going to work. A double-minded person is unstable in all their ways, and they can't be trusted. Yeah. Go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 30. When you are in tribulation, and all these things are come upon you, even in the latter days, if you turn to Yahweh your Elohim, and shall be obedient unto his voice, for Yahweh thy Elohim is a merciful Elohim. He will not forsake thee, neither destroy thee, nor forget the covenant of thy fathers, which he sware unto them.
Right. This gave Israel hope in the latter days of which we living in now, right? Go ahead, brother.
Verse 32. For acts now of the days that are past, which were before you, since the day that Elohim created man upon the earth, and acts from the one side of heaven unto the other, whether there have been any such thing as this great thing is, or have been heard like it. Did ever people hear the voice of Elohim speaking out of the midst of the fire, as you have heard, and live? Or has Elohim attempted to go and take him a nation from the midst of another nation, by temptation, by signs, and by wonders, and by war, and by a mighty hand, and by a stretched out arm, and by great terrors, according to all that Yahweh your Elohim did for you in Egypt before your eyes? Unto you it was showed, that you might know that Yahweh he is Elohim. There is none else beside him. Out of heaven he made you to hear his voice, that he might instruct you. And upon earth he showed you his great fire, and thou heardest his words out of the midst of the fire. And because he loved your fathers, therefore he chose their seed after them, and brought you out in his sight with his mighty power out of Egypt, to drive out nations from before you, greater and mightier than you are, to bring you in, to give you their land for an inheritance, as it is this day. Know therefore this day, and consider it in thine heart, that Yahweh he is Elohim in heaven above, and upon the earth beneath. There is none else. You shall keep therefore his statutes and his commandments, which I command you this day, that it may go well with you and with your children after you, and that you may prolong your days upon the earth, which Yahweh your Elohim giveth you forever.
Okay, my brothers, chapter 6 and verse 20 through chapter 7 and verse 11. Chapter 6 and verse 20 through chapter 7 and verse 11. These are some things our people soon forgot once they got in the land, and with all the wealth that Yahweh had gave them during the time they was coming through that wilderness into the land and so forth. These mighty wealthy people, they soon forgot the God of Israel. All of the warnings and everything don't mean nothing when money is your purpose. Yeah, go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 20. And when thy son asked of thee in time to come, saying, what mean the testimonies and the statutes and the judgments which Yahweh our Elohim have commanded you? Then thou shalt say unto thy son, we were Pharaoh's bondmen in Egypt, and Yahweh brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. And Yahweh showed signs and wonders, great and sore, upon Egypt, upon Pharaoh, and upon all his household before our eyes. And he brought us out from thence, that he might bring us in, to give us the land which he sware unto our fathers. And Yahweh commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahweh our Elohim, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahweh our Elohim, as he has commanded us. When Yahweh thy Elohim shall bring thee into the land, whither thou goest to possess it, and have cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when Yahweh thy Elohim shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them.
Right, but we see our brothers and sisters grabbing on the taking husbands and wives from other nations this day, don't we? Mm-hmm. Right? You know why? They become Americanized. They might as well call themselves Christians. Go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 3. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of Yahweh be kindled against you, and destroy thee suddenly. But thus shalt thou deal with them. Thou shalt destroy their altars, and break down their images, and cut down their groves, and burn their graven images with fire. For you are an holy people unto Yahweh your Elohim. Yahweh your Elohim have chosen you to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Yahweh did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because you were more in number than any people, for you were the fewest of all people. But because Yahweh loved you, and because he will keep the oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, have Yahweh brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Know therefore that Yahweh thy Elohim, he is Elohim, the faithful Elohim, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him, and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations, and repayeth them that hate him to their face, to destroy them. He will not be slack to him that hates him, he will repay him to his face. Thou shalt therefore keep the commandments and the statutes and the judgments which I command thee this day, to do them.
Right, and when he said he will repay them that hate them to their face, a lot of times what happens is he's repaying people and people don't see it. That means that they're often the things that they cannot repent from. The next piece of I'm not going to read this, but the next piece of scripture that follows this is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1 through chapter 30 and verse 20. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 1 through chapter 30 and verse 20. And we're going to read Deuteronomy 32 and verse 1 through verse 44. Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 1 through verse 44.
You know, we just reading, they said that the children ask, what mean these things that we do? Now you don't see that today, you know, the kids, same thing, get so far away from the roots. You know, the atmosphere, what are we hearing? Everybody became assimilated now, Americanized, so they don't talk about the roots anymore.
Of course not. People are ashamed of their roots. Their roots gender to righteousness. People are ashamed of their roots because people aren't about the God of Israel anymore, brother. People are about themselves. And because people are about themselves, what happens is we don't raise our children up in the way that they should go, so that when they get older, they will not depart from them. We give them options. Well, you can as you can. Or we tell them meatheads to do something, and they don't do it, and then they come to us and say, you got $100? Yeah, here. We don't give them any incentive to do what we say do. And then what happens? The world eats them up, brother. And then Yahweh's going to hold us accountable for that. Yeah. Go ahead and read, Steve.
Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 1. Give ear, O you heavens, and I will speak. And hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as the rain. My speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass. Because I will publish the name of Yahweh.
Praise Yah.
Ascribe you greatness unto our Elohim. He is the rock. His work is perfect. For all his ways are judgment, a ale of truth and without iniquity, just and right is he. They have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. They are a perverse and crooked generation. Do you thus requite Yahweh, O foolish people and unwise? Is not he thy father that hath brought thee? Has he not made thee and established thee? Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, and he will show you. Your elders, and they will tell you.
People don't seek the word. A lot of people don't seek the word at the mouth of the elders. They like to go to their croonies and seek the word at the mouth of their croonies. But go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 8. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel.
And Israel wasn't even a nation when Yahweh divided the nations their inheritance at the Tower of Babel. Israel wasn't even a nation at that time, but their bounds was already set. Why? Because Yahweh lives in the heart of the earth. And the Fertile Crescent is the heart of the earth. He say, I've seen it, I've espied it, there will I dwell forever. Even right now, he's dwelling there through his angels. Go ahead and read it, brother.
Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 9. For Yahweh's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. He found him in a desert land and in the waste howling wilderness. He led him about, he instructed him. He kept him as the apple of his eye. As an eagle stirreth up her nest, fluttereth over her young, spreadeth abroad her wings, taketh them, beareth them on her wings, so Yahweh alone did lead him, and there was no strange God with him. He made him ride on the high places of the earth, that he might eat the increase of the field, and he made him suck honey out of the rock, and oil out of the flinty rock, butter of kine and milk of sheep with fat of lambs, and rams of the breed of Bashan, and goats with the fat of kidneys of wheat, and you did drink the pure blood of the grape. But Yeshurun waxed fat.
Right.
And
look at all the stuff I get. Look at all the stuff I gave you. Look at all the things I did to you. Look at the wonderful inheritance I gave you. Look at the righteousnesses I gave you. But what happened? You waxed fat and kicked. Go ahead, brother.
Thou art waxen fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness. Then he forsook Elohim which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. They provoke him to jealousy with strange gods. With abomination provoke they him to anger. They sacrifice unto devils, not to Elohim, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not.
Right, the new gods they knew not, right? In other words, they was doing things pertaining to things that the nation was doing, and they didn't even know the nation's gods. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 18. Of the rock that begot thee, thou art unmindful, and hast forgotten Elohim that formed thee. And when Yahweh saw it, he abhorred them, because of the provoking of his sons and of his daughters. And Yahweh said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be. For they are a very forward generation, children in whom is no faith. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not Elohim. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities. And I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation.
Well, look, we're living witnesses. We know that these crackers is crazy, right? And we know that the Muslims is crazy. Anytime somebody can talk to you into strapping a bomb around you and going blowing yourself up, you are not. You see? And not just their enemies, anybody. Just go blow up yourself, right? So, but what we do is we look at these things and we take on the ways of these same people. This is what provoked the God of Israel to jealousy. And look at us as a people. The Gentiles is a foolish nation, right? Corporate America gives us everything we deal with. And we know that they're a foolish nation, don't we? But what do? To be chic, to be in sport, we follow their ways. Go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 22. For a fire is kindled in mine anger, and shall burn unto the lowest hell, and shall consume the earth with her increase, and set on fire the foundation of the mountains. I will heap mischief upon them.
That's fact.
I will spin mine arrows upon them.
Right, we do what we want to do. We're going to get away with it. But when Yahweh get ready, he going to heap mischief upon you. He going to send his arrows upon us. Understand? And we can see it coming. You know why? Only 1 in 3 of us is going to be saved. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 24. They shall be burnt with hunger and devoured with burning heat and with bitter destruction. I will also send the teeth of beasts upon them with the poison of serpents of the dust. The sword without and terror within shall destroy both the young man and the virgin, the suckling also with the man of gray hairs. I said I would scatter them into corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men.
Didn't it happen? Go ahead, brother.
Were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, and lest they should say, our hand is high, and Yahweh have not done all this. For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. How should one chase 1,000 and 10 put 2,000 to flight, except their rock had sold them, and Yahweh had shut them up? For their rock is not as our rock, even our enemies themselves being judges.
Because they serve another God. They don't call on the name of Yahweh, so their rock is not our rock. They think, they know who they get their blessings from, all of their power and everything. They know it come from the adversary of the devil. That's why they kept us out of their churches for so long. They told black folks, you don't want to come up in here. We worship Satan up in here. But now, turn on your TV on Sunday morning. Like Yahweh said, my people assemble in the whore's house in troops. Right. Go ahead, brother.
What did it say on that dollar bill? For he looks on our favors, look on our endeavors favorably, right? Those Luciferian worshipers. Right. They know who they worship.
Of course they do, brother. These Gentiles know they worship Lucifer. A lot of these Gentiles know who you are. You'd be surprised. And a lot of these Gentiles know Yahweh's name, but what do they choose to call him? Lord.
They got our people off now, and this new age thing with Scientologists. All those Will Smith and all those people out in Hollywood. Yeah, all of them off into that now.
Hey, brother, look here. When people get money, the neighborhoods change. Their thoughts change. See, their ideals change, right? Right. Money's the root of all evil. You can believe that. The root of all evil. And when this thing go down and they start closing up these supermarkets and so forth in our neighborhoods and putting our young men in these prisons and so forth, you're going to see that money is the root of all evil. Folks, going to be a brother got family in his house. He ain't got no income coming in, ain't no jobs out here for him. You know what he going to do? He going to take it from somebody that's going to begin in our neighborhood. See, that's why them white folks been strengthening themselves and all of the with having all those what they call them things, gun and knife shows and so forth, man. Up all in Nancy Creek and all up around there, brother, and pastures and so forth, Sugarloaf Parkway and so forth. We go out there, we buy 50 shells. Them crackers put in carts of stuff, taking the kids out to the firing ranges and so forth, teaching them how to shoot and everything. Like them Gentiles said, y'all caught us by surprise during the Civil Rights Movement. We ready for you now. And when it goes down, just watch how our brothers and sisters. And see, the thing of it is this, brother, they're after you. You. See? They're after you. And we see it. We see it. The thing of it is you're in a position to where you can't do nothing about it except wear your whole armor. But you got to step up on higher ground to wear that whole armor. See, go ahead and read, brother.
Deuteronomy chapter 32.
Yahweh don't care how you feel about that brother over there, that sister over there. He don't care about that. He said, love you one another. This is what you shall do. But see, what we do as a people, we try to pit each other against each other. Go ahead and read, brother.
Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 32. For their vine is of the vine of Sodom and of the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall. Their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of dragons and the cruel venom of asps. Is not this laid up and stored with me and sealed up among my treasures? To me belongs vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall slide in due time.
No doubt about it. To me belongs vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall slide in due time. Ain't that what happened to our fathers? Go ahead, brother.
For the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things that shall come upon them make haste.
Right. Folks say, well, the first slaves came over here in Jamestown in 1616, so we got a few years, so I'm going to let the hair go with the hide, and then I'm going to be a prodigal son. No, you ain't. The hair's with the hide because Yahweh has decreed it, because you don't keep your mind stayed upon it. Go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 36. For Yahweh shall judge his people and repent himself for his servants when he seeth that their power is gone and there is none shut up or left. And he shall say, where are their gods, their rock in whom they trusted, which did eat the fat of their sacrifices and drank the wine of their drink offerings? Let them rise up and help you and be your protection. See now that I, even I, am he, and there is no God with me. I kill, and I make alive. I wound, and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. For I lift up my hand to heaven and say, I live forever. If I whet my glittering sword, and mine hand take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to mine enemies, and will reward them that hate me. I will make mine arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, and that with the blood of the slain and of the captives from the beginning of revengeance upon the enemy.
Well, the beginning of revengeance upon the enemy is going to take place when Lucifer's thrown out of heaven, right? Guess what? Jake's his enemy too. Go ahead. Why you think Jake over there in Afghanistan and all them places fighting this Gentile wars, they didn't get drafted? Master say you get in, we're going to give you $10,000. And when we muster you out, we're going to give you another $10,000. We're going to set you up to where when you get out, you still be in the National Guard, but what we are in the reserve. But what we're going to do is whatever college you want to attend, we're going to put you in. Just come on over here and fight for Miss America's pie. Mm-hmm. We know she's falling down, but come on over here and fight for her anyway. You join on to us, and we're going to treat you right. Right. As soon as they get a chance to, they're going to cut you too. Yeah. Go on and read, brother.
Verse 43. Rejoice, O you nations, with Yahweh's people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants, and will render vengeance to his adversaries, and will be merciful unto his land and to his people. And Moshe came and spake all the words of this song in the ears of the people, he and Oshia, the son of Nun.
Okay, my brother. First, let's go and see, after reading these prophecies, let's go and see what took place. See that Yahweh is right on his word. What he says, that's what he means. First Kings 11 and verse 1 through chapter 12 and verse 23. Let's go and pick up in the reign of Solomon. After David had heaped up all these riches and everything, man, it's made Solomon the richest man on the face of the earth and so forth. So let's go and see what this knucklehead did. See.
Verse 1. But King Shlomo loved many strange women, together with the daughter Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which Yahweh said unto the children of Israel, you shall not go in to them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Shlomo cleaved unto these in love, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass, when Shlomo was old, that his wife turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with Yahweh his Elohim, as was the heart of David his father.
Show you what do you think about Yahweh? He knew, this brother knew that the angel of Yahweh had appeared to him twice and gave him warnings. Mm-hmm. See? But he rich. He got everything he wants. It's harder for a rich man to go to enter the kingdom than it is for a camel to go to. It's easier, rather. Y'all know where I'm headed at with that.
But Elder, a rich man lives in constant distrust and suspicion.
Of course.
He always thinking somebody's going to take something from him, or he's worried about his money all the time.
Of course. That's why money becomes the root of all this evil.
Uh-huh.
The more you get, the more you got,
right.
The more you want. That's why the prophet plays say, don't make me too poor to where I steal, and don't make me too rich until I turn my back on you. And you'll be surprised the people that turn their back on the true and living God so that they can attain wealth. Yeah. Go ahead and read, brother.
1 Kings chapter 11, verse 5. For Shlomo went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Shlomo did evil in the sight of Yahweh, and went not fully after Yahweh, as did David his father. Then did Shlomo build a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Melech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burn incense and sacrifice unto their God.
Right. Well, baby, you know, it's a 11-day journey for me to go back to Egypt. You know, for this year, the sacrifice that we came up. That's too hard for me. Won't you build me a house right here? You don't have to be no big house, just a little house. Right. Right. Go ahead, brother.
We also see that definition, the two definitions of love. But he say he loved many strange wives, but you know the scripture saying this is love that you keep the commandments. So you see that the love is lusting, but he should keep the commandments.
We lust.
Many strange wives. He didn't love. But saying love is keep the commandments.
Right.
So you see how the love is,
Right. Right. We lust and love fleshly things. Right. Right, brother. It's ingrained in us. You know why? Lucifer raised us up, and we got to admit it.
You know, people will say you can marry anybody, but the word says about that you love when you spend what keep the commandments.
Correct. Right. You're absolutely right, brother. Go ahead and read. Israel is strange people, man. Israel is the strangest people on the face of the earth. We the only people that got Yahweh close to us, and we know it within our hearts. We know it. But you know what we do? We do what we want to do, man. When we want to do it, how we want to do it, where we want to do it, and who we want to do it with. Yeah. Go on and read, Steve.
Verse 9. And Yahweh was angry with Shlomo because his heart was turned from Yahweh Elohim of Yisrael, which had appeared unto him twice, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods. But he kept not that which Yahweh commanded. Wherefore Yahweh said unto Shlomo, for as much as this is done of you, and you have not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded you, I will surely rend the kingdom from you, and will give it to your servant. Notwithstanding, in your days I will not do it for David your father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son.
And he said, just like another king in Israel, good is the word of Yahweh. It ain't going to happen in my day, so I'm going to let the hair go with the hide. Right. Go ahead, brother.
1 Kings chapter 11, verse 13. Howbeit, I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen. And Yahweh stirred up an adversary unto Shlomo, Hadad the Edomite. He was of the king's seed in Edom. For it came to pass, when David was in Edom, and Joab the captain of the host was gone up to bury the slain, after he had smitten every male in Edom, for 6 months did Joab remain there with all Yisrael, until he had cut off every male in Edom, that Hadad fled, he and certain Edomites of his father's servants with him, to go into Egypt, Hadad being yet a little child. And they arose out of Midian, and came to Paran, and they took men with them out of Paran, and they came to Egypt, unto Pharaoh king of Egypt, which gave him a house, and appointed him victuals, and gave him land. Mm-hmm. And Hadad found great favor in the sight of Pharaoh, so that he gave Hadad to wife the sister of his own wife, the sister of Tahpenes, the queen. And the sister of Tahpenes bore him Genubath, his son, whom Tahpenes weaned in Pharaoh's house. And Genubath was in Pharaoh's household among the sons of Pharaoh. And when Hadad heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab, the captain of the host, was dead, Hadad said to Pharaoh, let me depart, that I may go to mine own country.
Right, let me depart, that I may go to my own country, because them terrible enemies we had, David and Joab, they dead, so let me go up there so I can do a small up in Israel. Go ahead, brother.
Yes, sir. Verse 22. Then Pharaoh said unto him, but what have you lacked with me, that behold, you seek to go to your own country? And Hadad answered, nothing. Howbeit, let me go in any wise. And Elohim stirred him up another adversary, Rezon, the son of Eliada, which fled from his master Hadadezer, king of Zobah. And he gathered men unto him, and became captain over a band, which when David slew them of Zobah. And they went to Damascus, and dwelt therein, and reigned in Damascus. And he was an adversary to Yisrael all the days of Shlomo, besides the mischief that Hadad did, and he abhorred Yisrael, and reigned over Syria.
Right. You see what it said? It said, and Elohim stirred up him another adversary. See, that's who stir up our adversaries against us when we don't do what we're supposed to do. And them adversaries, a lot of times, in these days and time, the adversary don't come to you with no sword. And when you look around, you party to their mess. Go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 26. And Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an Ephrathite of Zerida, Shlomo's servant, whose mother's name was Zeruiah, a widow woman, even he lifted up his hand against the king. And this was the cause that he lifted up his hand against the king. Shlomo built Milo and repaired the breaches of the city of David his father. And the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor. And Shlomo, seeing the young man that he was industrious, he made him ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph. And it came to pass at that time, when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahiah the Shilonite found him in the way, and he had clad himself with a new garment, and they two were alone in the field. And Ahiah caught the new garment that was on him, and rent it in 12 pieces. And he said to Jeroboam, take thee 10 pieces. For thus says Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Shlomo, and will give 10 tribes to thee. But he shall have 1 tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, because that they have forsaken me, and have worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways to do that which is right in mine eyes, and to keep my statutes and my judgments, as did David his father. Howbeit, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him prince all the days of his life for David my servant's sake, whom I chose, because he kept my commandments and my statutes.
So, in other words, when you walking upright, then Yahweh have a tendency to put the blessings that, because of what you did, to put those blessings on your children. Go ahead and read.
Verse 35. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes. And unto his son will I give 1 tribe, that David my servant may have a light always before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen me to put my name there. And I will take thee, and thou shalt reign according to all that thy soul desireth, and shall be king over Israel. And it shall be, if you will hearken unto all that I command you, and will walk in my ways, and do that is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that I will be with you, and build you a sure house, as I built for David, and will give Israel unto thee. And I will for this afflict the seed of David, but not forever. Shlomo sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, and Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt unto Shishak king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Shlomo. And the rest of the acts of Shlomo, and all that he did, and his wisdom, are not they written in the book of the acts of Shlomo? And the time that Shlomo reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years. And Shlomo slept with his fathers, and was buried in the city of David his father, and Rehoboam his son reigned in his stead. And Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel were come to Shechem to make him king. And it came to pass, when Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who was yet in Egypt, heard of it, for he was fled from the presence of King Shlomo, and Jeroboam dwelt in Egypt, that they sent and called him. And Jeroboam and all the congregation of Israel came, and spake unto Rehoboam, saying, your father made our yoke grievous. Now therefore make you the grievous service of your father, and his heavy yoke which he put upon us lighter, and we will serve you.
Which was fair. Which was fair. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 5. And he said unto them, depart yet for 3 days, then come again to me. And the people departed. And King Rehoboam consulted with the old men that stood before Shlomo his father while he yet lived, and said, how do you advise that I may answer this people?
That's what he was supposed to do, right? Appear to the wise man, the elders and so forth, and say, now, how should I deal with these people, right? Go and read, brother.
Verse 7. And they spake unto him, saying, if you will be a servant unto this people this day, and will serve them, and answer them, and speak good words to them, then they will be your servants forever. But he forsook the counsel of the old men which they had given him, and consulted with the young men that were grown up with him and which stood before him.
Right, a bunch of fools. Right? Go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 9. And he said unto them, what counsel give you that we may answer this people who have spoken to me, saying, make the yoke which your father put upon us lighter. Mm-hmm. And the young men that were grown up with him spake unto him, saying, thus shalt thou speak unto this people that spake unto thee, saying, thy father made our yoke heavy, but make thou it lighter unto us. Thus shalt thou say unto them, my little finger shall be thicker than my father's loins. And now, whereas my father did lay you with a heavy yoke, I will add to your yoke. My father hath chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions.
Right. See, what happens, this is why we have deacons and church mothers in this congregation set up so the younger people can go to them. But the younger people don't want to, some of these young folks don't want to attend these meetings. You know why? They want to do things the way they want to do. So they're doing the same thing that's right here. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 12. So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam the third day, as the king had appointed, saying, come to me again the third day. And the king answered the people roughly, and forsook the old men's counsel that they gave him, and spake to them after the counsel of the young men, saying, my father made your yoke heavy, and I will add to your yoke. My father also chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions. Wherefore the king hearkened not unto the people, for the cause was from Yahweh, that he might perform his saying, which Yahweh spake by Ahiah the Shilonite unto Jeroboam the son of Nebat. So when all Israel saw that the king hearkened not unto them, the people answered the king, saying, what portion have we in David? Neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel. Now see to thine own house, David. So Israel departed unto their tents. But as for the children of Israel, which dwelt in the cities of Yehudah, Rehoboam reigned over them. Then King Rehoboam sent Adoram, who was over the tribute, and all Israel stoned him with stones, that he died. Therefore King Rehoboam made speed to get him up to his chariot and to flee to Jerusalem. So Israel rebelled against the house of David unto this day. And it came to pass, when all Israel heard that Jeroboam was come again, that they sent and called him unto the congregation, and made him king over all Israel. There was none that followed the house of David, but the tribe of Yehudah only. And when Rehoboam was come to Jerusalem, he assembled all the house of Yehudah with the tribe of Benjamin, 180,000 chosen men, which were warriors, to fight against the house of Israel, to bring the kingdom again to Rehoboam, the son of Shlomo. But the word of Elohim came unto Shemaiah, the man of Elohim, saying, speak unto Rehoboam, the son of Shlomo, king of Yehudah, and unto all the house of Yehudah and Benjamin, and to the remnant of the people, saying, thus says Yahweh, you shall not go up, nor fight against your brethren, the children of Israel. Return every man to his house, for this thing is from me. They hearkened therefore to the word of Yahweh, and returned to depart according to the word of Yahweh.
Okay, my brother. Now, it's impossible for a divided house to stand. So Elohim separated the royal tribe of Judah to himself, giving Benjamin, and we know that Levi was already in Jerusalem because they didn't receive a portion of the land. The suburbs of Jerusalem was their portion. So he gave Benjamin and Benjamin and Levi to be a servant. So Elohim wrote his unchaste, unashamed, whorish wife Samaria a bill of divorcement, and cast her into the bed of her lovers in colonies throughout Europe and Russia to this very day. Yirmiyahu chapter 2 and verse 1 through chapter 3 and verse 11. Yirmiyahu chapter 2 and verse 1 through chapter 3 and verse 11.
Verse 1. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Go and cry in the ears of Jerusalem, saying, Thus says Yahweh, I remember thee, the kindness of thy youth, the love of thine espousals, when thou wentest after me in the wilderness, in a land that was not sown. Yisrael was holiness unto Yahweh, and the first fruits of his increase. All that devour him shall offend, evil shall come upon them, says Yahweh. Hear the word of Yahweh, O house of Jacob, and all the families of the house of Yisrael. Thus says Yahweh, what iniquity have your fathers found in me, that they are gone far from me, and have walked after vanity, and are become vain? Neither said they, Where is Yahweh that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, that led us through the wilderness, through a land of deserts and of pits, through a land of drought and of the shadow of death, through a land that no man passed through, and where no man dwelt? And I brought you into a plentiful country, to eat the fruit thereof, and the goodness thereof. But when you entered, you defiled my land, and made my heritage an abomination. The priest said not, Where is Yahweh? And they that handle the law knew me not. The pastors also transgressed against me, and the prophets prophesied by Baal, and walk after things that do not profit. Wherefore I will yet plead with you, says Yahweh, and with your children's children will I plead. For pass over the isles of Greece and see, and send unto Kedar, and consider diligently, and see if there be such a thing. Has a nation changed their gods?
Will a nation give up their salvation? Go ahead, brother.
Which are yet no gods? But my people have changed their glory for that which does not profit. Be astonished, O you heavens, at this, and be horribly afraid. Be you very desolate, says Yahweh. For my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewed them out systems, broken systems that can hold no water.
Right. They've forsaken me and chosen things of the world. They ain't going to hold no water. They're going to perish what you using. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 14. Is Yisrael a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled? The young lions roared upon him and yelled, and they made his land waste. His cities are burned without inhabitant. Also the children of Noph and Tahaphanes have broken the crown of your head.
Noph is Esau, and Tahaphanes is Nubia. Go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 17. Have you not procured this unto yourself, in that you have forsaken Yahweh thy Elohim, when he led thee by the way? And now, what have you to do in the way of Egypt, to drink the waters of Sihor? Or what have you to do in the way of Assyria, to drink the waters of the river? Thine own wickedness shall correct thee, and thy backsliding shall reprove thee. Know therefore and see that it is an evil thing and bitter, that thou hast forsaken Yahweh thy Elohim, and that my fear is not in thee, says the Adonai Elohim of hosts.
And people don't fear Yahweh today, brother. People don't fear Yahweh because they haven't felt the depths of Satan. Everything's good for them. They're doing just like they want to do, doing everything they want to do. They don't fear the God of Israel. We fear man more than we do the God of Israel. And we know it. Right? Well, guess what? Eventually, Yahweh going to get you for it. He's going to either teach you how to fear him, or he's going to teach you to go ahead and do everything that you want to do because he done cast you off. See, go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 20. For of old time I have broken thy yoke and burst thy bands, and thou saidst, I will not transgress.
Right of old time. I sent you my servant. He taught you of Yahshua, of coming under the blood. He taught you of the righteousness of the law. And what did you say? I will not offend. Go ahead, bro.
When upon every high hill and under every green tree thou wanderest, playing the harlot.
You did whatever you came into your mind that you thought you live in the land of the free, or the home of the brave, and you were brave enough to do everything that you were free enough to do. Go ahead and read.
You still be telling them those evergreen trees, because they're called conifer trees. You know, they always be green all year round. They still put them in the Christmas rituals.
Right.
That's what it is.
Right. We call them greenbacks today. Go ahead and read, brother.
Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 21. Yet I had planted thee a noble vine, wholly a right seed. How then are you turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me? For though you wash you with nitre and take you much soap, yet your iniquity is marked before me, says the Adonai Elohim.
Well, if it's marked, you go into judgment for it. Because it should have been repented so to be erased. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 23. How canst thou say, I am not polluted? I have not gone after Baalim. See thy way in the valley, know what you have done. You are a swift dromedary traversing her ways, a wild ass used to the wilderness that snuffs up the wind at her pleasure. In her occasion, who can turn her away? All they that seek her will not weary themselves. In her month they shall find her. Withhold thy foot from being unshod, and thy throat from thirst. But you said, there's no hope. No, for I have loved strangers, and after them will I go. As the thief is ashamed when he is found, so is the house of Israel ashamed. They, their kings, their princes, and their priests, and their prophets, saying to a stock, you are my father, and to a stone, you have brought me forth. For they have turned their back unto me, and not their face, but in the time of their trouble they will say, arise and save us. But where are your gods that you have made you? Let them arise if they can save you in the time of your trouble. For according to the number of your cities are your gods, O Yehuda. Why will you plead with me? You all have transgressed against me, says Yahweh. In vain have I smitten your children. They receive no correction. Your own sword have devoured your prophets like a destroying lion. O generation, see you the word of Yahweh. Have I been a wilderness unto Israel, a land of darkness? Wherefore say my people, we are Adonai's. We will come no more unto you. Can a maid forget her ornament, or a bride her attire? Yet my people have forgotten me days without number. Why trimmest thou thy way to seek love? Therefore have you also taught the wicked ones your ways. Also in your skirts is found the blood of the souls of the poor innocents. I have not found it by secret search, but upon all these. Yet thou sayest, because I am innocent, surely his anger shall turn from me. Behold, I will plead with thee, because you say, I have not sinned.
Full of dripping with curses, and then say, I haven't sinned. Right. Go ahead, brother. It shows you what happened when the God of Israel, when you make up your mind that you want to do a whole lot of garbage, it shows you what happened, don't you? God of Israel back up off you. Right. Go ahead and read, brother.
That's just like the, what do you call it, the ostrich. He put his head in the ground.
And thank you here. Right. Yeah, that's what it is, brother. That's good. That's all right. I got to remember that one. Yeah. Go ahead and read, Steve.
Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 36. Why gatherest thou about so much to change thy way? Thou also shalt be ashamed of Egypt, as you were ashamed of Assyria. Yea, thou shalt go forth from him, and thine hands upon thy head. For Yahweh hath rejected thy confidences, and you shall not prosper in them. They say, if a man put away his wife, and she go from him, and become another man's, shall he return unto her again? Shall not that land be greatly polluted? But thou hast played the harlot with many lovers, yet return again to me, says Yahweh. Lift up thine eyes unto the high places, and see where you have not been lain with. In the ways have you sat for them, as the Arabian in the wilderness, and thou hast polluted the land with thy whoredoms and with thy wickedness. Therefore the showers have been withholden, and there have been no latter rain, and thou hadst a whore's forehead, thou refused to be ashamed. Will you not from this time cry unto me, my Father, you are the God of my youth? Will he reserve his anger forever? Will he keep it to the end? Behold, you have spoken and done evil things as thou couldst. Yahweh said also unto me in the days of Josiah the king, have you seen that which backsliding Israel have done? She is gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there have played the harlot. And I said, after she had done all these things, turn thou unto me. But she returned not, and her treacherous sister Yehuda saw it. And I saw, when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce, yet her treacherous sister Yehuda feared not, but went and played the harlot also. And it came to pass through the likeness of her whoredom that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and with stocks. And yet for all this, her treacherous sister Yehuda have not turned unto me with her whole heart, but feignedly, says Yahweh. And Yahweh said unto me, the backsliding Israel have justified herself more than treacherous Yehuda.
The backsliding Israel has found a ransom, and she's justified herself more than Yehuda. Chapter 7, in verse 1 through verse 23.
One through 23.
Mm-hmm.
Yirmiyahu chapter 7, verses 1 through 23. The word that came to Yirmiyahu from Yahweh, saying, stand in the gate of Yahweh's house, and proclaim there this word, and say, hear the word of Yahweh, all you of Yehuda that enter in at these gates to worship Yahweh. Thus says Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Yisrael, amend your ways and your doings, and I will cause you to dwell in this place. Trust you not in lying words, saying, the temple of Yahweh, the temple of Yahweh, the temple of Yahweh are these. For if you thoroughly amend your ways and your doings, if you thoroughly execute judgment between a man and his neighbor, if you oppress not the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, and shed not innocent blood in this place, neither walk after other gods to your hurt, then will I cause you to dwell in this land, in this place, in the land that I gave to your fathers forever and ever. Behold, you trust in lying words that cannot profit. Will you steal, murder, and commit adultery, and swear falsely, and burn incense unto Baal, and walk after other gods whom you know not, and come and stand before me in this house, which is called by my name, and say, we are delivered to do all these abominations?
Just listen to what it's saying. Listen to what that said. It said, behold, you trust in lying words that cannot profit. Will you steal, murder, commit adultery, and swear falsely, and burn incense unto Baal, and walk after other gods whom you know not? Either one of these things, right? And come and stand before me in this house, which is called by my name, and say, we are delivered. We were supposed to do all of these abominations. Listen to what he's saying. And that's what Jake does. See? Go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 11. Is this house, which is called by my name, become a den of robbers in your eyes? Behold, even I have seen it, says Yahweh.
They didn't have no fear. They didn't care whether you saw them or not. They said, come, today we're going to get this, and tomorrow we're going to get even more than we got today. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 12. But go you now unto my place which was in Shiloh, where I set my name at the first, and see what I did to it for the wickedness of my people, Israel. And now, because you have done all these works, says Yahweh, and I spake unto you, rising up early and speaking, but you heard not, and I called you, but you answered not. Therefore will I do unto this house, which is called by my name, wherein you trust, and unto the place which I gave to you and to your fathers, as I have done to Shiloh. And I will cast you out of my sight, as I have cast out all your brethren, even the whole seed of Ephraim. Therefore, pray not thou for this people.
Therefore, don't you pray for this people. See, you know what these folks doing. Folks say, man, I got to go pray for that brother. Yahweh say, Therefore, don't you pray for this people, neither lift up cry or prayer for them, neither make intercessions to me, for I will not hear. Go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 17. Seest thou not what they do in the cities of Yehudah and in the streets of Jerusalem? The children gather wood, and the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead their dough, to make cakes to the queen of heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto other gods, that they may provoke me to anger. Do they provoke me to anger, says Yahweh? Do they not provoke themselves to the confusion of their own faces? Therefore, thus says the Adonai Elohim, behold, mine anger and my fury shall be poured out upon this place, upon man and upon beast, and upon the trees of the field, and upon the fruit of the ground, and it shall burn, and it shall not be quenched. Thus says Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Yisrael, put your burnt offerings unto your sacrifices and eat flesh. For I spake not unto your fathers, nor commanded them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt concerning burnt offerings or sacrifices.
Right, that was added to the law. That was the schoolmaster that brought us unto the Messiah. Go ahead and read, brother.
Yirmiyahu chapter 7, verse 23. But this thing I commanded them, saying, obey my voice, and I will be your Elohim, and you shall be my people, and walk you in all the ways that I have commanded you, that it may be well unto you.
Right, and it shall be our righteousness if we do the things contained in the law, because the law is spiritual, and only a people that walk in the spirit of Elohim will walk in the law. Go on and read, brother.
That was it, El.
You finished that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, chapter 21, in verse 1 through verse 14. Chapter 21, in verse 1 through verse 14. See, so don't think that because you come to church and because you know a whole lot of things that that's all it is to it. No, it's a whole lot more. That's just the beginning of your sorrows. Yeah. Where I told you to go, man. 21?
Yes, sir.
21, verse 1 through verse 14.
The word which came unto Yirmiyahu from Yahweh, when King Zedekiah sent him Pashur the son of Micaiah, and Zephaniah the son of Maaseiah the priest, saying, inquire, I pray you, of Yahweh for us. For Nebuchadnezzar, king of Iraq, maketh war against us. If so be that Yahweh will deal with us according to all his wondrous works, that he may go up from us.
Yahweh had already told him, say, I will not be inquired of by you. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 3. Then said Yirmiyahu unto them, thus shall you say to Zedekiah, thus says Yahweh Elohim of Yisrael, behold, I will turn back the weapons of war that are in your hands, wherewith you fight against the king of Iraq, and against the Iraqis which besiege you without the walls, and I will assemble them into the midst of this city.
You go fight against them, but I'm going to turn your weapons back upon you. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 5. And I myself will fight against you with an outstretched hand and with a strong arm, even in anger and in fury and in great wrath.
Man, when Nebuchadnezzar besieged Jerusalem, man, for them 18 months, man, the people ate the fruit their own children, man. Yeah. Now tell me that's not anger and fury and wrath. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 6.
Do we think we better than they? Go ahead, brother.
And I will smite the inhabitants of this city, both man and beast, they shall die of a great pestilence. And afterward, says Yahweh, I will deliver Zedekiah, king of Yehuda, and his servants, and the peoples, and such as are left in this city, from the pestilence, from the sword, and from the famine, into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Iraq, and into the hand of their enemies, and into the hand of those that seek their life, and he shall smite them with the edge of the sword. He shall not spare them, neither have pity, nor have mercy.
Well, look at the way that we do things today, brother. He's delivered us into the hands of our enemies, haven't he? Go ahead.
Verse 8. And unto this people thou shalt say, Thus says Yahweh, Behold, I set before you the way of life and the way of death. He that abideth in this city shall die by the sword, and by the famine, and by the pestilence. But he that goes and falls to the Iraqis that besiege you, he shall live, and his life shall be unto him for a prey.
Jeremiah went and told the people that, said, look, don't fight against the king of Iraq. So what you do is you go out to it. He'll let you stay in the land and so forth and so on, you know. You still have your field, the fields, the till and so forth. Go out to it. Mm-hmm. They said, man, you done fell away. You done sided with the enemy. And when Nebuchadnezzar came into the city, where did they have him? In the king's dungeon, down in mud, brother. Go ahead and read, man.
Verse 10. For I have set my face against this city for evil and not for good, says Yahweh. It shall be given into the hand of the king of Iraq, and he shall burn it with fire. And touching the house of the king of Yehuda, say, Hear you the word of Yahweh. O house of David, thus says Yahweh, execute judgment in the morning, and deliver him that is spoiled out of the hand of the oppressor, lest my fury go out like fire, and burn that none can quench it, because of the evil of your doings. Behold, I am against thee, O inhabitant of the valley and rock of the plain, says Yahweh, which say, Who shall come down against us, or who shall enter into our habitation?
Right. Yahweh protects this house here. Who you think is not this city the cauldron and we the flesh? Ain't nobody coming against this city to do nothing. Yahweh is with us. Right. Right. You ain't did a damn thing he said, but yet and still you're going to tell me he's with you. Either you dabble at what he said. Go ahead, brother.
Last verse 14. But I will punish you according to the fruit of your doings, says Yahweh, and I will kindle a fire in the forest thereof, and it shall devour all things round about it.
Okay, my brother, Isaiah chapter 6 and verse 1 through chapter 7 and verse 17. Isaiah 6 and verse 1 through chapter 7 and verse 17. All these prophets, all these holy men that went into the city and told people, you need to do this. You need to do that. You need to stop doing this. You need to stop. Man, get away from me with that God, man. We gods ourselves.
Verse 1. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Adonai sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above it stood the seraphims. Each one had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he did fly. And one cried unto another and said, Holy, holy, holy is Yahweh of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory.
Praise Yah.
And the post of the door moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. Then said I, Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For mine eyes have seen the King, Yahweh of hosts.
Right. He knew that. He knew that he was a filthy rag, right? But his eyes saw Yahweh's hosts. You know why? Yahweh chose it, and not man. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 6. Then flew one of the seraphims unto me, having a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with the tongues from off the altar. And he laid it upon my mouth, and said, Lo, this has touched thy lips, and thine iniquity is taken away, and thy sin purged.
It didn't take no animal sacrifice, did it? No. See, we have to understand the righteousness of the law. The animal sacrifice was given to our fathers so that they would go and fall and be taken and be snared. See, that's why Paul said, I was alive outside the law once, but when the commandment came, sin revived and I died. Right? Go ahead, brother.
Verse 8. Also I heard the voice of the Adonai saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then said I, Here am I, send me. Mm-hmm. And he said, Go and tell this people, Hear you indeed, but understand not, and see you indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert, and be healed.
Go and do these things to them so they can't be healed. You know why? They turn their back on the true and living God. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 11. Then said I, Adonai, how long? And he answered, Until the cities be wasted without inhabitant, and the houses without man, and the land be utterly desolate, and Yahweh have removed men far away, and there be a great forsaking in the midst of the land. But yet in it shall be a tenth, and it shall return, and shall be eaten, as a teil tree, and as an oak whose substance is in them, when they cast their leaves, so the holy seed shall be the substance thereof. Mm-hmm. And it came to pass in the days of Ahaz, the king, the son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Yehuda, that Rezin, the king of Syria, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, king of Israel, went up toward Jerusalem to war against it, but could not prevail against it. And it was told the house of David, saying, Syria is confederate with Ephraim. And his heart was moved, and the heart of his people, as the trees of the wood are moved with the wind.
That's what happens when we go out the streets and we get confederate with other people, and then turn our backs against our own people that's under the blood of Yahshua. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 3. Then said Yahweh to Esaias, Go forth now to meet Ahaz, you and Shear Yashub, your son, at the end of the conduit of the upper pool in the highway of the fuller's field, and say unto him, Take heed and be quiet. Fear not, neither be faint-hearted for the two tails of these smoking firebrands, for the fierce anger reasoned with Syria and of the son of Remaliah. Because Syria, Ephraim, and the son of Remaliah have taken evil counsel against you, saying, Let us go up against Yehuda and vex it, and let us make a breach therein for us, and set a king in the midst of it, even the son of Tabiah. Thus says the Adonai Elohim, It shall not stand, neither shall it come to pass. For the head of Syria is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Rezin, and within 65 years shall Ephraim be broken, that it be not a people. And the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Remaliah's son. If you will not believe, surely you shall not be established. Moreover, Yahweh spake again unto Ahaz, saying, Ask thee a sign of Yahweh thy Elohim, ask it either in the depth or in the height above. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, neither will I tempt Yahweh. And he said, Hear you now, O house of David. Is it a small thing for you to weary man? But will you weary my Elohim also?
You're all ready for the sin, right? And you're going to weary my Elohim also, man? Do what you're told, man. Ask a sign. Went to one of the kings of Judah. One of the prophets went to one of the kings of Judah and told him, say, hey, stamp your feet. This fool didn't want to do it. So he stamped his foot one time. He told him, said, man, you should stamp your foot many times, brother, because these kings going to come up on you and destroy you. Go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 14. Therefore the Adonai himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Butter and honey shall he eat, that he may know to refuse the evil and choose the good.
Mm-hmm.
For before the child shall know to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land that thou abhorrest shall be forsaken of both her kings.
And when the Mashiach was born, we didn't have a king anywhere, did it? The Romans was in there, weren't they? Go ahead, brother.
What a stranger was called, what king of Judea? What?
Mm-hmm.
Herod.
Herod, right. Edomite.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead and read, brother.
Verse
the same remnants of the ones that Joab didn't kill, that fool let escape.
Okay.
See, you're supposed to kill all the seed of Edom. See, and that's what he went to do, rather. But they had to escape because Esau got to go into captivity under us, and then we going to kill off his seed. we going to take care of the business. Go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 17. Yahweh shall bring upon you and upon your people and upon your father's house days that have not come from the day that Ephraim departed from Yehudah, even the king of Assyria.
Okay, my brother. Ezekiel chapter 2 and verse 1 through, Ezekiel chapter 8 and verse 1 through verse 18. Let's go and see what these meatheads was doing. Now, all y'all we done sent them all these holy men they're choosing, right? But no, man, don't mind. Who are you? Yahweh said, okay, we're going to see. Well, let's see what Yahweh did because of that. He rose up early, sending them prophets in time for them to receive salvation, right? Well, let's see. Ezekiel chapter 8 and verse 1 through verse 18. Show you what this is going to show you what Judah and what our people think about the God of Israel. Man, I think our people think about what pleased them.
Yeah. And it came to pass in the 6th year, in the 6th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I sat in mine house, and the elders of Yehudah sat before me, that the hand of the Adonai Elohim fell there upon me. Then I beheld, and lo, a likeness as the appearance of fire, from the appearance of his loins even downward fire, and from his loins even upward, as the appearance of brightness, as the color of animal.
Right, the brother saw an angel. See, go ahead, brother.
Verse 3. And he put forth the form of a hand, and took me by a lock of mine head, and the Spirit lifted me up between the earth and the heaven, and brought me in the visions of Elohim to Jerusalem, to the door of the inner gate that looketh toward the north, where was the seat of the image of jealousy, which provoketh to jealousy.
Right. Yahweh don't keep his servants in the dark. He's showing what's going on. Go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 4. And behold, the glory of the Elohim of Yisrael was there, according to the vision that I saw in the plain. Then said he unto me, Son of man, lift up thine eyes now the way toward the north. So I lifted up mine eyes the way toward the north, and behold, northward at the gate of the altar this image of jealousy in the entry. Mm-hmm. He said furthermore unto me, Son of man, seest thou what they do, even the great abominations that the house of Israel committeth here, that I should go far off from my sanctuary? But turn you yet again, and you shall see greater abominations. Mm-hmm. And he brought me to the door of the court, and when I looked, behold, a hole in the wall. Then said he unto me, Son of man, dig now in the wall. And when I had digged in the wall, behold, a door. Mm-hmm. And he said unto me, Go in, and behold the wicked abominations that they do here. So I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping things and abominable beasts, and all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about. And there stood before them 70 men of the ancients of the house of Israel. And in the midst of them stood Yaazaniah the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand, and a thick cloud of incense went up. Mm-hmm. Then said he unto me, Son of man, Have you seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark, every man in the chambers of his imagery? For they say, Yahweh seeth us not, Yahweh hath forsaken the earth. He said also unto me, turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations that they do. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of Yahweh's house, which was toward the north, and behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. Then said he unto me, hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn you yet again, and you shall see greater abominations than these. And he brought me into the inner court of Yahweh's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of Yahweh, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple of Yahweh, and their faces toward the east, and they worshiped the sun toward the east. Then he said unto me, have you seen this, O son of man? Is it a like thing to the house of Yehudah that they commit the abominations which they commit here? For they have filled the land with violence, and have returned to provoke me to anger, and lo, they put the branch to their nose. Therefore will I also deal in fury, mine eye shall not spare, neither will I have pity, and though they cry in mine ears with a loud voice, yet will I not hear them.
Okay, my brother, chapter 11 and verse 1 through verse 16. See, our people just don't intend on doing things right.
Moreover, the Spirit lifted me up and brought me unto the east gate of Yahweh's house, which looketh eastward. And behold, at the door of the gate, 25 men, among whom I saw Jaazaniah the son of Azir, and Pelatiah the son of Benaiah, princes of the people. Then said he unto me, Son of man, these are the men that devise mischief and give wicked counsel in this city, which say, it is not near, let us build houses. This city is the cauldron, and we be the flesh.
Then they done went and took them some other advisors from among their friends, right? Right, go ahead, brother.
Verse 4. Therefore prophesy against them, prophesy, O son of man. And the Spirit of Yahweh fell upon me, and said unto me, speak. Thus says Yahweh, thus have you said, O house of Israel, for I know the things that come into your mind, every one of them. You have multiplied your slain in this city, and you have filled the streets thereof with the slain. Therefore thus says the Adonai Elohim, your slain whom you have laid in the midst of it, they are the flesh, and this city is the cauldron. But I will bring you forth out of the midst of it. You have feared the sword, and I will bring a sword upon you, says the Adonai Elohim. And I will bring you out of the midst thereof, and deliver you into the hands of strangers, and will execute judgments among you. You shall fall by the sword. I will judge you in the border of Israel, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. This city shall not be your cauldron, neither shall you be the flesh in the midst thereof, but I will judge you in the border of Israel. And you shall know that I am Yahweh, for you have not walked in my statutes, neither executed my judgments, but have done after the manner of the heathen that are round about you. And it came to pass, when I prophesied, that Pelatiah the son of Benaiah died. Then fell I down upon my face, and cried with a loud voice, and said, Adonai Elohim, will you make a full end of the remnant of Israel? Again, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, thou brethren, even thou brethren, the men of thy kindred, and all the house of Israel holy are they unto whom the inhabitants of Jerusalem have said, get you far from Yahweh. Unto us is this land given in possession. Verse 16, therefore say, thus says the Adonai Elohim, Although I have cast them far off among the heathen, and although I have scattered them among the countries, yet will I be to them as a little sanctuary in the countries where they shall come.
Right, he was a little sanctuary to the house of Judah. This is why only a tenth returned back to the land. Let's go and pick up what happened to, eventually happened to Judah. Let's go into 2 Kings. 2 Kings 23 in verse 1 through chapter 25 in verse 30. Amen. Hey, Esau, it's your fault I keep kicking this thing out. You need to find another place to plug. Ain't that plug over there work? I don't see it, and it's right here behind the altar. Now, you see, all that's your fault. You should have thought about this stuff when Danielle and putting this thing together. Okay, appreciate it, brother. Okay. 2 Kings 23 in verse 1 through 25 and verse 29. See, this is why you have to read this whole book. Appreciate it, sweet. This is why you have to read this whole book. You got to know what you're talking about. You got to know what you're talking about. Go ahead, my brother.
2 Kings chapter 23, verse 1. And the king sent, and they gathered unto him all the elders of Yehudah and of Jerusalem. And the king went up into the house of Yahweh, and all the men of Yehudah, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem with him, and the priests and the prophets, and all the people, both small and great. And he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant, which was found in the house of Yahweh.
They had to find the law book. People in the temple cleaning up the temple and had to find the law book. See, you know why? Our fathers has gotten off into tradition. This is why when you get in the New Testament, when the Mashiach, when time came up for Passover, Mashiach had, and the apostles and the priesthood had already celebrated Passover. And our fathers was waiting to celebrate it. You know why? They have their own interpretation of the law. Yeah. Go on and read, brother.
Verse 3. And the king stood by a pillar and made a covenant before Yahweh to walk after Yahweh and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his testimonies and his statutes with all their heart and all their soul, to perform the words of this covenant that are written in this book. And all the people stood to the covenant.
Mm-hmm.
And the king commanded Hilkiah the high priest and the priests of the second order and the keepers of the door to bring forth out of the temple of Yahweh all the vessels that were made for Baal and for the grove and for all the host of heaven. And he burned them outside Jerusalem in the fields of Kidron and carried the ashes of them unto Bethel. And he put down the idolatrous priests whom the kings of Yehudah had ordained to burn incense in the high places in the cities of Yehudah and in the places round about Jerusalem, them also that burn incense unto Baal, to the sun, and to the moon, and to the planets, and to all the host of heaven. And he brought out the grove from the house of Yahweh outside Jerusalem unto the brook Kidron, and burned it at the brook Kidron, and stamped it small to powder, and cast the powder thereof upon the graves of the children of the people. Yeah. Verse 7. And he broke down the houses of the Sodomites that were by the house of Yahweh, where the women wove hangings for the grove. And he brought all the priests out of the cities of Yehudah, and defiled the high places where the priests had burned incense from Jeba to Beersheba, and broke down the high places of the gates that were in the entering of the gates of Joshua, the governor of the city, which were on a man's left hand at the gate of the city. Nevertheless, the priests of the high places came not up to the altar of Yahweh in Jerusalem, but they did eat of the unleavened bread among their brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And he defiled Topheth, which is in the valley of the children of Hinnon, that no man might make his son or his daughter to pass through the fire to Molech. And he took away the horses that the kings of Yehuda had given to the son at the entering in of the house of Yahweh by the chamber of Nathan Melech, the chamberlain, which was in the suburbs, and burned the chariots of the sun with fire.
Mm-hmm.
And the altars that were on the top of the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the kings of Yehuda had made, and the altars which Manasseh had made in the two courts of the house of Yahweh, did the king beat down and broke them down from thence, and cast the dust of them into the brook Kidron. And the high places that were before Jerusalem, which were on the right hand of the Mount of Corruption, which Shlomo the king of Israel had built it for Ashtoreth, the abomination of the Sidonians, and for Chemosh, the abomination of the Moabites, and for Milcom, the abomination of the children of Ammon, did the king defile. And he broke in pieces the images and cut down the groves and filled their places with the bones of men. Moreover, the altar that was at Bethel and the high place which Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, had made, both that altar and the high place he broke down, and burned the high place, and stamped it small to powder, and burned the grove. And as Josiah turned himself, he spied the sepulchres that were there in the mount, and sent and took the bones out of the sepulchres, and burned them upon the altar, and polluted it according to the word of Yahweh, which the man of Elohim proclaimed, who proclaimed these words. Then he said, what title is that I see? And the men of the city told him, it is the sepulchre of the man of Elohim, which came from Yehuda, and proclaimed these things that you have done against the altar of Bethel. And he said, let him alone. Let no man move his bones. So they let his bones alone, with the bones of the prophet that came out of Samaria. And all the houses also of the high places that were in the cities of Samaria, which the kings of Israel had made to provoke Yahweh to anger, Josiah took away and did to them according to all the acts that he had done in Bethel. Mm-hmm. And he slew all the priests of the high places that were there upon the altars, and burned men's bones upon them, and returned to Jerusalem. And the king commanded all the people, saying, keep the Passover unto Yahweh your Elohim, as it is written in the book of this covenant. Surely there was not holden such a Passover from the days of the judges that judged Israel, nor in all the days of the kings of Israel, nor of the kings of Yehuda, but in the 18th year of King Josiah, wherein this Passover was holden to Yahweh in Jerusalem. Moreover, the workers with familiar spirits, and the wizards, and the images, and the idols, and all the abominations that were spied in the land of Yehuda and in Jerusalem, did Josiah put away, that he might perform the words of the law which were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of Yahweh. Mm-hmm. And like unto him was there no king before him that turned to Yahweh with all his heart, and with all his soul, and with all his might, according to all the law of Moshe, neither after him arose there any like him. Mm-hmm. Notwithstanding, Yahweh turned not from the fierceness of his great wrath, wherewith his anger was kindled against Yehuda, because of all the provocations that Manasseh had provoked him withal. And Yahweh said, I will remove Yehuda also out of my sight, as I have removed Yisrael, and will cast off this city Jerusalem, which I have chosen. And the house of which I said, my name shall be there.
Right there, you might want to write down in your book 2 Chronicles 35. 2 Chronicles 35 and verse 19, and go pick that up. Go ahead and read, Steve.
Verse 28. Now the rest of the acts of Josiah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Yehuda? In his days, Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, went up against the king of Assyria to the river Euphrates, and King Josiah went against him, and he slew him at Megiddo when he had seen him. And his servants carried him in a chariot dead from Megiddo, and brought him to Jerusalem, and buried him in his own sepulchre. And the people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, and anointed him, and made him king in his father's stead.
The people did it, right? The priest was supposed to do it, or the prophet. Go ahead, brother.
Yes, sir. Verse 31. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, according to all that his fathers had done. And Pharaoh Necho put him in bands at Riblah in the land of Hamath, that he might not reign in Jerusalem, and put the land to a tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. And Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim, the son of Josiah, king in the room of Josiah his father.
Now Yahweh is not putting up the kings no more. Got other kings doing it, foreigners, right? Right, that's what they asked for. Go ahead, brother.
And turned his name to Jehoiakim, and took Jehoahaz away, and he came to Egypt and died there. And Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh, but he taxed the land to give the money according to the commandments of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and the gold of the people of the land, of everyone according to his taxation, to give it unto Pharaoh Necho.
Now you can pick that up at Jeremiah chapter 25. Yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
Yes, sir, verse 36. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Zebudah, the daughter of Pedaiah or Rumah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, according to all that his fathers had done. In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Iraq, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him. And Yahweh sent against him bands of the Iraqis, and bands of the Syrians, and bands of the Moabites, and bands of the children of Ammon, and sent them against Yehudah to destroy it, according to the word of Yahweh, which he spake by his servants the prophets. Surely at the commandment of Yahweh came this upon Yehudah, to remove them out of his sight for the sins of Manasseh, according to all that he did, and also for the innocent blood that he shed. For he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, which Yahweh would not pardon. Shabbat shalom, my brother. We're at 2 Kings chapter 24, verse 5. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Yehudah? So Jehoiakim slept with his fathers, and Jehoiachin, his son, reigned in his stead.
Now what you're beginning to notice that now, it's a king that'll come in and do some good, and then his rotten son will come in and do something, and then the people want to come in and do good. Yahweh show his grace upon the people for a while, but then the people go right on back into the thing that they is going back. And you know why? They didn't have no spirit. See, Yahweh had at this time here, the spirit had already forsaken Jerusalem. Go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 7. And the king of Egypt came not again any more out of his land, for the king of Iraq had taken from the river of Egypt unto the river Euphrates all that pertained to the king of Egypt. Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months, and his mother's name was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem.
Right, that's the same thing they called that doggone staff that Moses had, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
And when they began to worship it. So they named her after a staff that the people worship. Go on and read, bro.
Verse 9. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, according to all that his father had done. At that time, the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Iraq, came up against Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar, king of Iraq, came against the city, and his servants did besiege it. And Jehoiachin, the king of Yehudah, went out to the king of Iraq, he and his mother, and his servants, and his princes, and his officers. And the king of Iraq took him in the 8th year of his reign. And he carried out thence all the treasures of the house of Yahweh, and the treasures of the king's house, and cut in pieces all the vessels of gold which Shlomo king of Israel had made in the temple of Yahweh, as Yahweh had said. And he carried away all Jerusalem, and all the princes, and all the mighty men of valor, even 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen and smiths. None remained, save the poorest sort of the people of the land. Mm-hmm. And he carried away Jehoiachin to Iraq, and the king's mother, and the king's wives, and his officers, and the mighty of the land. Those carried he into captivity from Jerusalem to Iraq. And all the men of might, even 7,000, and craftsmen and smiths 1,000, all that was strong and able for war, even them the king of Iraq brought captive to Iraq. And the king of Iraq made Mattaniah his father's brother king in his stead, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Mm-hmm. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. For through the anger of Yahweh it came to pass in Jerusalem and Yehudah, until he had cast them out from his presence, that Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Iraq. And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Iraq, came, he and all his hosts, against Jerusalem, and pitched against it, and they built forts against it round about.
No, this is the second time they done besieged Jerusalem. I see Jake don't want to listen. Go ahead and read, brother.
Verse 2. And the city was besieged until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. And on the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine prevailed in the city, and there was no bread for the people of the land. And the city was broken up, and all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between the two walls, which is by the king's garden. For the Iraqis were against the city round about, and the king went the way toward the plain. And the army of the Iraqis pursued the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all his army was scattered from him. So they took the king and brought him up to the king of Iraq to Riblah, and they gave judgment upon him. And they slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him with feathers of brass, and carried him to Iraq. And in the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which is the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Iraq, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, a servant of the king of Iraq, unto Jerusalem. And he burnt the house of Yahweh, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and every great man's house burnt he with fire. And all the army of the Iraqis that were with the captain of the guard broke down the walls of Jerusalem round about. Now the rest of the people that were left in the city, and the fugitives that fell away to the king of Iraq, with the remnant of the multitude, did Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carry away. But the captain of the guard left of the poor of the land to be vine dressers and husbandmen. Mm-hmm. And the pillars of brass that were in the house of Yahweh, and the bases, and the brazen sea that was in the house of Yahweh, did the Iraqis break in pieces, and carried the brass of them to Iraq. And the pots, and the shovels, and the snuffers, and the spoons, and all the vessels of brass wherewith they ministered, took they away. And the fire pans, and the bowls, and such things as were of gold, and of silver,